It doesn't look like it's swamped with people.
Good morning. It's 8:30 and I would like to call this work session to order. I would like to welcome you all, City Council members, and I'm going to try to speak into this. So welcome to everybody on Zoom, and we look forward to a productive session this morning before the before the council session. The council meeting begins at 10 a.m. I want to tell you all, first of all, is the first of more than one, and I don't know how many. That is at the will of the council, and I am perfectly willing to accommodate as many meetings and as much time as the council wants. So we have a very broad agenda, and I would ask for a motion to adopt that broad agenda. You have seen it. Could I have a motion from the floor, and then I will read the outline of what our expectations are for this work session.
Okay. Madam Mayor, and please help me out here for a second. I would like to move that we approve an agenda consisting of basically 3 items. 1 is a public hearing. 2 is hearing from your invited guests, and thirdly, statements from council and the mayor.
And that is correct. So if you would approve the agenda, which is basically discussion of the proposed Sky Valley sewer project, and then we will adjourn for the city council meeting. There will be no votes and no action taken today. This is a work session, and I will explain the protocol to everybody. Motion, a second.
What was the order that you want to do that in?
The order is we have 90 minutes. The mayor and each council member will have up to 5 minutes for introductory comments. And we will schedule up to 30 minutes for public comment. And then we will have some testimony, from some folks we've invited. And that is it.
Okay. So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So let me tell you, this is what I sent out to the city council, and just so that everybody knows and is on the same page as the city council. I have asked Jason to invite the following, Jason Streetman, city manager, to invite the following entities that have maintained in the past that they have critical septic system problems: the timeshares, the country club, and Valley View condos. The city council needs to hear firsthand their experience, why, and what they have done in the way of remediation. I have invited Parker Environmental, which has serviced numerous septic systems in the area. I have invited an environmental scientist who's not here yet, an environmental scientist in the wastewater industry. And city council will be allowed to question these representatives and must be recognized by the mayor before speaking. I also clarified this is a work session and the first of more than one on this issue. No decisions can or will be made, nor will it be tackled in the council meeting immediately following this work session. I will schedule more sessions once we see the direction of this work session. The protocol for the work session: we have about 90 minutes, less than 90 minutes. I will not allow this work session to erupt into a free-for-all. And I understand that feelings are strong on both sides. The mayor and each council member will have up to 5 minutes for introductory comments regarding the septic to sewer project. This will be timed. We will schedule up to 30 minutes for public comment. And depending on the number of signups, speakers will be allowed 3 or 5 minutes per individual, strictly timed. Speakers will sign up beforehand. And I would ask you to see the city clerk, Karen Fleming, to sign up if you'd like to speak. This is for timing purposes and nothing else. Thank you. There will be no questions, debate, or discussion between speakers and the council during the public comment or any time during the work session. Council comments will be directed to the mayor as presiding officer, and discussion will remain on the topic as noticed. Now, I want to remind you, this is a council work session, not a public debate. The public's opportunity for input is during the public comment period. And I added a point of clarification to that. If you recall my campaign comments, I voiced serious doubts about whether we need a sewer system. I still doubt that we do. Nothing has changed that view. I have maintained that we deserve a needs assessment over and above the economic feasibility that was a study that was done. And when I asked at the sewer Q&A why that hadn't been done, you may recall that EMI said they had not been asked to do so. As an involved party in the proposed project, I maintain that EMI should not be the entity to conduct that assessment. And I added, this isn't about my perspective, however, it's about a fact-based decision the city council must make with careful and thoughtful deliberation. As presiding officer, I hope to facilitate that decision through this and ensuing work sessions. Any public hearings required by law will be scheduled separately as this process moves forward. And those are the rules and the protocol for this work session. So I'd like to start by providing my 5 minutes of comments, and I would ask that you time me. And right, so today's work session is about one thing: due diligence. When I ran for mayor, I stated clearly that I believe that before Sky Valley commits to a project as consequential as a municipal sewer system, we must have a clearly demonstrated need, not a projected opportunity, not a funding-driven timeline, but a demonstrated and documented need. And this is why I called for a formal septic to sewer needs assessment. Now, let me also be clear about what this discussion is not. It is not a criticism of EMI. The engineering firm did exactly what the city asked it to do. It responded to the scope that it was given, and that is the professional role of an engineer. This is not a denunciation of our city manager. He carried out the direction of the prior administration and council, and he successfully secured a $2 million grant from the Appalachian Regional Commission to add to the $3 million GFA grant. But funding does not establish necessity. When I spoke with the director of the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, which provided the $3 million grant, he expressed serious doubts that $5 million would cover the cost of installing a sewer system in Sky Valley. And that raises fundamental financial questions. If $5 million is not enough, what is the real total? What would be the exposure to our taxpayers? What long-term obligations would we be assuming? Before moving forward, we must also ask, Have the entities reporting septic issues fully documented the extent of those problems? Have they exhausted available remedies? Have system upgrades, advanced treatments, options, or localized solutions been pursued and evaluated? And to ensure that we're hearing directly from stakeholders, I asked City Manager Jason Streetman to invite representatives from the condominiums, the timeshares, and the country club to share specifically what their challenges are and what steps they have taken to address them. I have also invited an environmental scientist who works for a wastewater treatment company to discuss his experience with the type of system proposed for Sky Valley, particularly in terrain similar to ours. In addition, Dylan Parker of Parker Environmental is here to discuss his firsthand experience with septic systems in Sky Valley. This is not about slowing progress. It's about ensuring that infrastructure decisions are based on verified need, realistic costs, environmental stewardship, and community consent. Before we continue discussion, I would like to read briefly from the minutes of a May 2020 workshop of the Mayoral Advisory Committee. And I brought copies for each of you so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. This was held on May 1st, 2020, and I'm going down to an update on the Harrison Merrill proposal. It says the members talked about different incentives that could be offered to Merrill. As you know, Merrill is the developer. Oliver, that is Mr. Bill Oliver, former councilman, member Bill Oliver, went over the feasibility study and economic development study that Merrill wants Sky Valley to help fund. These studies which help show the feasibility of the potential projects and the measurement of benefit to Sky Valley economically. And I'm going to go a little further down. Dara had checked on the sewer cost, which would entail about a 13% increase across the board over the cost quoted on the 2017 sewer survey's assessment. The county sees no problem in connecting to their sewer system. Merrill is requesting a commitment from the city on funding the sewer system before any developing begins. Different sources of funding might be available as far as grants, and it goes on. And I want to note that there is no mention of a septic crisis, only a developer's need, nor is there any mention of where the sewer would go. And that's a very small place, a very small footprint. We owe it to our residents, full-time and part-time alike, to make the decision carefully, transparently, and grounded in facts. That's the purpose of this work session. It's only the first work session, and I'm committed to facilitating as many as council needs to make its decision. Thank you. And I would like to start with Councillor Allred as far as city council comments.
I don't think I have much to add to that. You mentioned that you didn't think that people who were against development in general had played a part in this whole decision, and I think you're wrong about that. I think that's a major sort of driver of all of this activity. So just that is my opinion about that, and that's all I would have to say.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I would like to share a couple of things on Beth Pence. The council needs to make an important and pressing septic and sewer decision for the community. And I would like to remind everyone about a couple of statements that were actual quotes from the two grant applications from our previous council's hard work and previous mayor's hard work. And the following are statements from those grant applications. So I'm quoting them. One quote is, quote, higher density residential areas within Sky Valley have been plagued with ongoing septic system failures for decades, exposing residents to wastewater and negatively impacting their health and safety, end quote. Another quote from the grant applications, quote, in addition, septic system failures have resulted in high counts of phosphorus, ammonia, and suspended solids in the Mud Creek downstream of Sky Valley for the past 3 years, end quote. Next quote from the grant applications, quote, the construction of a sanitary sewer system will significantly increase public health in Sky Valley. The proposed system will eliminate the saturated septic drain fields and will treat wastewater to a high level of purity. City residents and those living downstream will no longer be at risk from exposure to wastewater caused by septic failures, protecting their overall health and safety. In addition, the sewer system will protect the local government or environment by preventing wastewater containing harmful chemicals from entering the ecosystem, end quote. This is not exhaustive list of concerns, but for the sake of time, I'll end on these thoughts. The residents of Sky Valley will not want this council and this mayor to make a decision based on 5 to 6 year old data. The lack of actual data or conjecture or inconclusive studies or hearsay. Madam Mayor, beyond today's work session, and it sounds like you're planning to do this, I propose that we have more septic to sewer special sessions, residential attendees, and this should happen before the looming May 2026 deadline for starting a sewer project or for yet another extension being asked for the GIFA grant. 2 months into this mayor's and 3 new council members' terms, 2 months, and we find our entire council now up against a May deadline. The 4.5-year-old GIFA grant must have accurate data from us. Residents, property owners, businesses must come forward with their data. We need to see septic companies' assessments and have stated that they have been stated to homeowners and condo owners, timeshares, and businesses that they have no repair options available for their failing septic system, and that there is indeed a concern for the environment. So please help us and show us your definitive data. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Jesse Price.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'll be brief. I want to clearly restate where I stand on the proposed sewer project. During the election, I was very open about having serious questions as to whether or not we need a sewer. Is it truly necessary for Sky Valley? I believe it's important to be consistent and transparent about that position. I also recognize there's really strong feelings on both sides of it. It makes sense. I understand. It's something I'm trying to move forward with and make thoughtful, well-informed decisions that protect the long-term future of the city. One of my primary concerns is growth and density. The reality is that the sewer infrastructure does not simply address existing needs. It enables significantly higher density development in the areas that it serves. I don't support dense development in Sky Valley. I believe slow organic growth is more sustainable and more consistent with the character of our quiet mountain community. My concern is not just about the present, but about the long-term implications of a project like this. This is a difficult decision with lasting consequences, and I believe it deserves a cautious and deliberate approach. At this time, I'm not convinced that we need a sewer project or that would be in the best interest of Sky Valley. That said, like the rest of the council, I believe I remain open to reviewing additional data, examining additional alternatives, and continuing to listen to feedback from the community. I believe the responsible governance requires both openness and restraint. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to share where I'm at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I make my comments, I want to take this minute to acknowledge that the passing of David Spears. I did not know Mr. Spears personally, but I recognize that he was a huge pillar in this community, and I want my condolences to all of you that knew and left him and to his family at this time, and that he will be missed. All right, I do have statements. I know you'll be surprised. So, good morning, neighbors. I've been advocating for months to have this sewer public discussion. It was my hope it would have been done much sooner. Further, please note that I objected to this date and time as I feel it does not lend itself to the deep dive and public input that this discussion needs. I will speak only for myself, but I wish to hear from every one of you for as long as it takes to hear what you have to say. This decision is monumental. It is millions of dollars and it packs hundreds of people, and consequences will affect the city of Sky Valley into perpetuity. In my opinion, the best decisions are based on facts and data, not supposition, assumptions, or possibilities. I want clean, cold, hard, irrefutable facts. I want forensic testing of the soil and water, an actual MST test, which is a microbial source tracking test performed by a third party, non-biased organization that specializes in just this sort of thing, like the Department of Isotopes from the University of Georgia. Test is $500. These tests detect DNA origin, animal versus human waste. These kinds of tests and inspections are relatively inexpensive and should be performed by certified soil specialists and the qualified environmental labs in Georgia, not the same company that wants to build your sewer system, like EMI or Wegman or anybody else that is there. The Department of Health and the EPD involved in the investigations with specific septic sewage alleged failings. Everything in Sky Valley is on a septic system and it has a responsible party for it. My decision on this topic will not be based on the 2021 grant funding. It is my opinion that money should have never been accepted without a shovel-ready plan and a verified need in place. It is very unfortunate to me that grant money has been sitting for 5 years. 5 years. If it is determined and the facts reveal and the data that a sewer system is indeed needed, then we will move forward to responsibly plan and execute to meet that critical need. Some wanting a sewer because it will facilitate development, relieve them from their property ownership responsibilities, or because we have free money is not how government should make decisions. I do not believe we require the multi-$1,000 needs assessment that the mayor is advocating for, further straining the already negative $81,000 water fund. This kind of assessments are done by large companies like EMI and Wegman, who you said was going to be on the agenda, who have a specialized interest in telling you what you want to hear and help you get it for a cost. I believe we need a local specialized task force whose sole purpose and directive is to oversee the forensic testing, meet with environmental experts, and present the empirical data in real time to the entire council and the citizenry of Sky Valley for consideration. Then and only then will we be able to make good decisions together. Let's get some real facts and action as soon as possible. I have spoken with the timeshares directly. I have spoken to the club directly, and I have emailed with the with Valley View. So I have lots of input on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Curtis.
Thank you. I'd just like to start out by saying that during the election campaign, we have combined two different issues. One issue is the environmental problem facing Sky Valley of deteriorating septic systems. The other is development. These are two separate issues. The environmental issue is going to persist regardless of whether or not we have future development or not. I believe it's the job of the city to look ahead to problems that we know are going to occur. Septic problems don't solve themselves. We have how many different condominium associations? 10 more. Condominium politics are, divisive generally. Well, anyway, you know all the problems. We've had documented issues of septic failures. And I'm hoping this morning that we'll hear from some of the people that have actually witnessed these events. The study that was done last year, the so-called economic feasibility study, documented E. coli counts below the dam. There were 2 spikes, one in 2000, I believe, 17 or thereabouts, another one more recently. Chloride levels were also elevated during the COVID years when Sky Valley's occupancy was up year-round. These figures were based on 8 samples of water per year spread throughout the year, and they were averaged into an annual figure. So that's the hard evidence. The May 2020 Mayoral Advisory Committee that the mayor mentioned did not, those minutes did not have anything about the problem because the problem had been known and discussed for a long time. When the mayor asked why EMI had not documented these, it said, you know, it was because people were already aware of these things. So what we're left with as a result of the last study is the preliminary engineering for a system consisting of force mains, of collection piping that would serve Condo Hill and basically the valley. Preliminary engineering takes into account the slope that you need on the pipes to flow, the pumps that you need to raise it up and get uphill to where it's going to be treated, and then a force main to get the effluent down to the location where the city has the permit to discharge effluent into Mud Creek after treatment. Preliminary engineering is what the cost estimate is based on. Cost estimates always include contingency. At the beginning, when you haven't got much engineering done, you've got a lot of contingency. Once you've got preliminary engineering, you've got less contingency. And once you've got final engineering plans, then your cost estimates should be, you know, so that you don't need more than 10% contingency. So let me add one additional comment about engineers. Professional engineers don't just go to engineering school. Professional engineers are required to, in order to get a state license, are required to have 4 years of progressive experience under another professional engineer. Progressive experience means getting more and more complicated stuff.
Counselor, your time is up. If you would wrap it up, please. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, professional engineers have professional ethics. And in terms of wrapping it up, I would propose that we need a council work session probably the first week in March after everybody gets back into town. This is an important session this morning. We hope to hear a lot of things, but what we'll not be having is a chance to exchange views on the council so we can find out where everyone is and figure out what a path forward is going to look like. And I hope we can do that the first week in March. Thank you,
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I would like to ask our city manager, Jason Streetman, to give a quick update before we have public comments.
I don't know, I guess to say, my understanding, you want to know where we are right now, I
Yes.
guess, okay, I guess. To really, I'll try to do this about 45 seconds, but really to kind of give you a timeline over the past 5 years to where we are now is important. As you all know, this grant was applied for in 2021 based on a 2017 study. And this grant, the $3 million grant that Madam Mayor talks about, is conversion, septic to sewer. There's no intent for any future residential development. When that grant was awarded, I think the existing or previous mayor council knew then it would not fully fund the project. That led to studies trying to weigh options, et cetera. Fast forward 2025, summer of 25, the city found out about the an additional funding source through the ARC, the Appalachian Regional Commission, to add some information. The $3 million grant did not require any match component. However, the $2 million grant did it as a 50-50 match. So the city was going to be able to use $2 of those $3 million as the match to apply and acquire the other grant. At that time, there were still concerns with $5 million fully fund this project. Meeting with EMI, the plant size was scaled down to try to, it may even need to be scaled down even further. That was discussions that was going on. The $2 million grant was intended to be for economic development. You don't necessarily have to have commercial, but you have to basically tee it up per se. So if it were to come sometime in the future, that grant that's there, that capacity is designed for that. It is not intended for future residential development. In fact, I have contended all along that neither one of these grants are intent for future residential development. That best management practices is development should pay for itself. EMI, there's kind of been a game of inches this whole process, being that you're dealing with grant money, even though we have not drawn on those grant funds. There's teeth with that, and there's been, I'd call it a game of inches. There's been a lot of, I'm just going to say it, nickel and diming as the process goes. As Councilmember Beasley said, about $80,000. That's moved forward with the intent that once the grant money would be starting to be drawn on, that could be paid back. During the election time, as we got kind of a pivotal time with moving this thing forward, the previous administration basically instructed to say, just pause everything until the new mayor and council comes on. So EMI has been paused since then. So in essence, that's where we're at with the process. So hopefully I've adequately addressed everything. If not, I'll do my best to provide more input.
Thank you. Moving on, we are setting aside up to 30 minutes for public comment. If you have signed in to speak, I would ask you to raise your hand, step up, introduce yourself. You do not have to cite your address. You can just say that you're a Sky Valley resident, and that is fine with us. And so if you have any public comment, going once. You raise your hand first, so come on up and to the microphone so that the folks on Zoom can hear you. And tell us who you are. That would be it. Thank you.
I'm Jesse Durham. I live on Wild Bird. Been here for 26 years. Been involved in government and understand the need to do good research and development. I've been sitting back here very pleased with what I've heard, and I am on the opposite side. I do believe that sewer is something that we really do need to look into and do. But I like the idea that we're looking at it in a thoughtful manner. I would say this. I don't want us to get overwhelmed in large studies. I'd like this to go quickly and make decisions within this time frame. My thought is sewers last 50 years. Some go 75, some go 25. Sewers don't last forever. I mean, septics don't last forever, okay? We will have this problem eventually. And who is going to pay for it? I don't know who's going to pay for it. Maybe my kids, maybe the condo owners, maybe we've already paid for it. The money that is in the grants is all money that all of us have already paid into in form of taxes, fees, assessments. It's our money. We put it in there. It comes from us. And why we want to give it back and let some other community take that money, I don't understand that reason. But I do understand the reasoning that it should be necessary. And I believe that because sewers fail, it is necessary. I'm sorry that development got coupled with this environmental. There is no way that I can see to uncouple it. Okay, so, but development is not necessarily a bad word. When I moved to Sky Valley, there was a golf course that was essentially not failing, but in bad shape. We had to put in irrigation. We had a lot of things had to be done to it. Merrill came in $3 million into the golf course. That's development. That was improvement. Okay. Previous administration put in pickleball courts and walking trails and bathrooms. That's development. Development's not necessarily bad. We just need to make sure that it's controlled. So I want to hear all these people that are coming in, and I commend the council on trying to do this in a logical and thoughtful manner, but don't take forever to do this. If we've got the money out there and we can use it and it's the right thing, let's use it. Let's do it. Okay. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Durham. You had your hand raised. Come on
Yes,
up.
ma'am.
Come on up and introduce yourself.
My name is Dean Talley, and my family has been coming here since the early 80s. My mother has 2 timeshares. She's since passed. Her best friend had a condominium up here many years ago. And so Sky Valley is kind of near and dear to my heart. I have been a witness, Parker Environmental would certainly be able to speak to that of the issues with our septic tanks. But a lot of that has been brought on by since the pandemic. Sky Valley has changed in a significant ways since the pandemic. Our association alone used to be 10 individual owners that might let someone they know come and stay in that unit. Family, friend, neighbor, relative, wherever they come from, flatland, from the mountains, irregardless of where they came from, Texas. So during the last 6 years, and I've been on the board that entire time, I've watched our association change. It's not for the good. It's changed significantly. As I speak, 6 out of the 10 units are rental units, so it's no longer individual owners. As a direct result of that, our sewage system is overtaxed. Anyone who knows anything about the sewage up on the hill that was running down, that was Turnberry Condominium Association. So we had to scramble to figure out what the problem was. Parker did a great job of assessing it and helping us get our septic system straightened out. Not one person, and there are residents of Sky Valley here that are permanent residents now because they loved it so much here that they went ahead and bought a home up here. And so the association, there's many members. I can go back probably at least 15 and possibly 20 years of different individuals that have been on the board and kept our association pretty nice and tidy. It's changed significantly. I don't like the change. I don't like the development. If the individuals, i.e. the trust that wants to get involved with the city and we've made commitments to them, they could start by cleaning up the building at the bottom of the hill that they still own. That would make the first step in making me feel like we could trust them. And if you go back and you look at their 50-year history, you'll see that there's a little bit of scorched earth through that if you do your research. So I'm not keen on development at all. That wasn't the intent of the original people who built this place. Larry McClure was the condominium president of our association when it was built. They were built rather quickly. They were built for ski chalets. They weren't built for permanent residence, which they've turned into with VRBOs and Airbnbs and individuals throughout Sky Valley that either rent their homes or they rent their VRBOs. And the people come here and they're looking for something that we really don't have. They're looking for all kinds of things of recreation, and they want to do things that maybe don't go with our way of life here of just relaxing and just chilling. When I come to the mountains, my unit looks down on my mother's timeshare. She's since passed away. I was able to buy a unit, and I always promised her when I was a child that I would have her a place in the mountains. And I picked her up in Marietta, Georgia, and I brought her up here one time to spend the night before she passed. So Sky Valley is near and dear to my heart. My last name is one that you find throughout the mountains here. I've been away for quite a few years. I really don't like being here and having to do this, but I'm not keen at all on getting in bed with the individuals that we have already gone down the pathway with. I was involved with our association 6 years ago when they made the first proposal to us, and they wanted to develop their property. Start the development by cleaning up the building down at the bottom of the hill, which is an eyesore to each and every individual who is an owner here in Sky Valley. That's what I have to say. Thank you, everyone.
May I ask what building you're talking about at the bottom of the hill?
Yes, sir. The old country club? Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Towney.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the chambers who would like to share a public comment? Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to share a public comment? No? Well, excellent. We can move on to the folks we've invited to testify. And if you don't mind, I would like to go with the 2 individuals I've invited who have jobs to go back to. So I would like to start with John Everett Dowling, who is an environmental scientist and is actually on his way to work. John Everett, thank you so much for being here. Introduce yourself, please. Tell us about you and we'll be questioning you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Everett Doling, and I'm a water and wastewater operator. I operate small package wastewater plants like the one that you're talking about. And I figured I'd come by here and answer any questions that anybody has about maybe the daily operations and maintenance of these plants or any of the problems you have with them or whatnot, because the package plants tend to be a little troublesome.
Tell us your background, John Everett.
I've been doing wastewater for 6 years, well, 7 years now. I started in 2019. I did 2 years with Reagan County, and I've done 5 years with RPB Systems out of Asheville. I've basically been managing small wastewater plants in neighborhoods, mountain neighborhoods like this for the past 5 years. I have a bit of experience in this area.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Jim Curtis, Councilman
What
Jim
sort of-
Curtis.
What sort of problems do you have with package plants?
Well, for example, one out in Cashiers, North Carolina, in Trillium is a filter package plant where the engineers kind of sold it to the customer under the expectation it would work better than their previous plant. And it's had nothing but problems since the time we installed it. They initially told us that it would have a the state likes the filter and package membrane plants a lot because they produce a cleaner effluent. On paper, they don't always produce a cleaner effluent in practice. Frequently, they're only operating in spec the way they're designed like 70 to 80% of the time. And we frequently have problems with them. In this case, we have to backwash the filters with chlorine. We were told the filters should have an 8-year lifespan. They had a 5-year lifespan. And the customer had to do a $2 million replacement 3 years earlier than they expected, which was a little bit unexpected because sometimes people sell these package plants to you with the expectation that it's going to be more economically effective than your current method of operation, but it ends up being more expensive once you factor in daily operations and parts and all the things you need to run it on a regular basis. Just because the feds give you money up front in the form of grants to get your plant built and whatnot, that like if you have it out of spec anytime that you're running it, they're going to turn around and fine you and want money back.
So a package plant means that it's built someplace else and brought in.
They pretty much bring it
and
out of
hooked
truck.
up. So there's no big settling basins, there's no exposed water, and they take up a lot less space. Is that basically
Yes.
the idea?
Yeah, they're basically, they're built somewhere else and you can bring them and all the components in for them on a truck.
Okay, and what's going on inside this package? You
Well, they're all-
have to grind up solids?
Well, if you have a lot of solids on the way in, you'll have a grinder pump. Well, that's generally your first step is you generally take all of your solids and remove them from the water stream. You just want to get water and then get like just small dissolved solids and like maybe floatable solids in there. And then you have a process called sedimentation where you'll let them separate out over time with gravity. But then other plants will also try to, like the plant that I'm talking about tries to suck them through a small filter. There's like these 4 2x2 squares that are about 10 feet tall, and there's piping hooked up to it, but it sucks the water through these 2 metal plates that have like a paper material that's manufactured in Germany between them. And we got micro tears in it almost immediately because we have 4 backwashes we have to do and cycle for the 3 of them are with clear water, and then the final one we have to use chlorine, like industrial strength bleach essentially. And the bleach caused micro tears in the filter when it wasn't supposed to. And then the life of the filter. Now we had, and this is the other part too, we actually needed the filter about 2 years ago and it was on order for 1.5 years. And essentially because they manufactured the material in Germany and put it together at this one company here in North Carolina, it took 1.5 years to get a part that we essentially needed to replace like in 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, these package plants can be problematic in that anything breaks on them, it might be like 3 to 6 months that you're out of compliance with the state where you're getting fines.
So what happens to the solids?
The solids? Oh, in our small package plant, you have to bring in a pumper truck to remove them regularly.
Okay.
Not all wastewater plants are designed to deal with the solids themselves. Some of these small package plants are designed to have a pumper truck come in regularly and remove them.
Okay, do you need to have on hand replacement grinders, replacement filters, and all that sort of
Every
thing?
single essential part I recommend that people have a backup for on site.
And when you have those in stock, does the process tend to move, the way it should?
I'd say yes, as long as you have a backup part to replace immediately, but sometimes like sometimes you'll replace the backup part immediately, it'll break itself in 3 months, and now you have that same part on order again.
Right.
Not everything moves perfectly, and ordering parts in the wastewater industry has been it's been like hell on earth ever since COVID.
What plant do you recommend, if not a package plant?
Honestly, I say given your population density, did anybody talk to you about subsurface, which is essentially a large industrial sized septic system?
Correct.
Yeah, well, essentially they have large industrial sized septic systems with larger drain fields, and they're often scalable. The other thing about package plants is they normally require 5-day-a-week site visits from the operator. Lots of other types of wastewater plants, like the subsurface plants, only require 2-day-a-week visits from the operator. And that can make a huge difference in operational costs, having to pay an operator for 2 days a week versus 5 days a week.
It's my understanding, Jason, was the package plant because of the cost effectiveness, is cheaper basically?
Yes, ma'am, that the original plan to run it down the mountain was gonna be cost prohibitive, and Mr. Hood with EMI, basically, who runs the Dillard plant, suggested that we do something similar to what they do, so that's how that came about.
My next question is, package plants don't seem to me like they would be designed for mountain terrain. Can you speak to the difference in putting something in mountain terrain, like what we have here in Pashers, compared to what the package plants are designed for? And
well, package plants are designed for a small area, so if you flatten out a small area, you can do them in mountainous terrain. But the thing to deal with a mountain is everything's constantly eroding, so stuff's shifting. Any pipes you have to have buried under the ground's moving a little bit, or you're constantly going to have breaks and have to go in there and fix stuff. I've seen the most success, honestly, in the mountainous terrain with the subsurface plants, where there's just a giant industrial sized septic system with just longer drain fields and whatnot underground. They have an option to come out like twice a week.
what kind of size is involved in that? How much geographic area are you talking about?
Maybe like a 200 by 200 foot area I've seen on some of them, because they're scalable. It depends on the amount of wastewater flow you have coming in versus, so it would basically be a needs assessment.
So it's a giant septic system with piping like sewer would be, but you
Yeah.
just have a giant septic system with giant drain
They-
fields,
they have-
same concept?
They literally have septic systems the size of individual houses all the way up to doing 1,000 people. And they're pretty scalable, and you can go anywhere.
So what's the biggest that you can go on that?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I've seen them serve communities with like 1,000 people.
So just 1,000?
I think they can go more than that, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Thank you.
So if I may ask a question, where do you live?
I live in Raven Gap.
In Raven Gap, and you are aware of the EMI package plant down behind the old Piggly Wiggly?
I've seen it twice before. When I was working for Raven County, the main operator there showed me that plant. At one point in time.
What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I haven't walked up to the plant and seen its daily operations, but I know it smelled a bit when I got close to it, and that tends to be how you know immediately when you show up to your wastewater plant. If you're a daily operator, you can tell if everything's going good or bad by the smell of it, and the smell of it was a little bit off to me.
Any further questions?
How long have package plants been used?
Don't know off the top of my head, but I have seen package plants that were built in the 80s, so I know at least the 1980s.
Okay.
Just so you know, I know that some of you have some questions, and if you want to step out and ask Mr. Doling after this, you're welcome to do so, but this is a work session for the city council, so these questions are, and this exchange is only for the city council. So thanks for understanding. So is there anything else you'd like to share about alternatives perhaps to the package system that EMI has proposed? as far as individuals, as far as condo associations, timeshares, the country club. And I know that you have not visited those specifically, but what, we're talking about septic systems that have been here a while. What would you consider as far as technology that would serve as alternatives to a package system for individuals and small groups that have?
Well, anybody that deals with septic systems will tell you the number one reason they fail is due to lack of regular maintenance. I don't know if you, at least from a governmental perspective, you could have an ordinance that says somebody has to get their septic tank pumped once every 2 years at least. I mean, that would probably help with like a lot of the regular failures, a lot of that, because I mean, you don't know how much your neighbor is taking care of their septic tank. You really don't. I've heard of people that don't get them pumped out for like 15 years. And then, I mean, a septic tank that isn't serviced regularly is one that's going to break.
Well, can I make one question? John Everett, your talk here has been very negative toward these package units. Is it your opinion that they don't work and we shouldn't consider?
I wouldn't say that they don't necessarily work. I say that they frequently don't work as designed, and that I've seen package units work the way that they're supposed to. But that's about 50% of cases. The other 50% of cases have been cases where the engineer sold it to a customer and then it didn't really operate the way it was supposed
Or
to.
you said that the maintenance wasn't.
It basically had maintenance and operational requirements that the engineer couldn't foresee or didn't expect when initially designing the plant. And then the continual cost of it, the operations cost, and all the stuff associated with it had higher recurring costs than what was initially sold to the customer. And I have seen that happen in about half the cases.
Can you compare and contrast the difference in expense between the giant septic system that you mentioned and the package system? What's the difference in cost and maintenance on those two?
And the cost of maintenance, like I said, having an operator visit the site 2 days a week instead of 5 days a week, that's a 40% reduction in your daily employment costs right there alone. They tend to have lower operating costs in my experience, but I would say right there, just.
What about longevity?
Longevity, I don't know how long they last off the top of my head, but I've seen ones that have lasted 50 years.
Do you know anything about the difference in price?
Not off the top
Like,
of
do
my
you have
head.
any idea how much one of those systems costs?
Not off the top of my head, because they're so scalable. Like I said, you can have a septic system that's like the size of your house, or you can have one that covers 1,000 people, and it all has to deal with how long your collection lines that you need that go to the plant are, and then what the actual size of the subsurface plant
How
itself is.
small have you seen them service? Like,
I've seen them service about 100 people before.
so like a condo unit or something?
Yeah,
Condo
yeah,
association.
so you could also, so like if you had like a particularly bad area, like just one condo that's giving you septic problems and it's like 200 people, they could go with like the smallest, like subsurface unit they need on just that unit, and then maybe everybody else keeps their septic tanks if they're not causing problems. So you could do like a hybrid approach to it.
And then you could add to that later if there are other ones in that building started to fail or something. Is
Yeah.
What you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you could make it.
So it has
scalable.
options.
Mhm.
I love options.
So yeah, you could also do something that's regionally scalable too, like if you have one particular area and like maybe we need to take care of this condo unit immediately, but want the option to add a few houses around it on later on, you could have that option too.
Thank you.
So I have one more question. As far as our E. coli count, in the valley, what testing would you recommend for us to, and I know you have an environmental science background, which is why I'm asking you this. What tests would you recommend that we undertake to ascertain whether that is human versus the Canada geese, for example?
I don't know if there is a test that can tell you if the E. coli source is animal versus human. That was the primary issue I had when you first told me that there was an E. coli test, and you also told me that it's like there's Canada geese and other animals present in that system. So I'm like, it sounds like they're like coli would naturally be present there, but so I mean, you said that you guys specifically had a super high count on E. coli, and they said that this is the reason why we think that their septic system's failing in the area. There's other things you could do, like maybe you could aerate that lake, put in a fountain or something, maybe raising the dissolved oxygen level would also lower the E. coli count. But that's the only other thing I thought of.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the MST test, the microbial sourcing tracking test?
Off the top of my head, no, it sounds like they're able to find the source of the microbe and go back to where it comes from.
That's my understanding, that they can determine between the difference in animal waste versus wildlife waste.
I'll have to look into it, but if they do have the technology for that, that's exactly the test I would get. Because that's exactly what you need to do. You need to, just because E. coli is present, you need to determine how much of it is human and how much of it is animal.
Is it my understanding is correct that if you are able to determine that there is human sewage, that it demands legally attention and it can be criminal if it's neglected?
Yes, yeah, pretty much any amount of untreated sewage over 1,000 gallons going onto the ground it could be considered a criminal offense.
And that triggers the EPD if it's over 10,000 and the Department of Public Health if it's under 10,000 septic tank, correct?
Correct.
All right, is there any further questions? Thank you so much, John Everett. We really appreciate you joining us, and we hope that we can call on your expertise again in the future.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Moving on, I would like to ask Dylan Parker of Parker Environmental. Many of you know him already. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I invite all of you to ask your questions of Mr. Parker.
What causes failing septic system?
Perfect.
A list about a mile long.
Okay.
I can piggyback on a lot of the things that John was talking about. Maintenance schedules, density of usage, how many people are using those systems. A lot of these systems, whether they're condos, whether they're houses, were put in 60s, 70s, 80s. Those regulations then for sizing are uncomparable to the regulations that we deal with now in terms of sizing. So you take, one of the condo units that has 3 bedrooms in it, and a lot of these condo units have, or the complexes have, I think on average 90 to 100 individual units in each one of those. If you take one of those units and it's at max capacity of people using it, that's a ton of sewage that's going out. That's a ton of effluent water that's going out that probably was not originally intended for. And a lot of times the only way to mitigate over usage, whether it be a house, whether it be a condo, is with a dedicated maintenance, with routine service and keeping them on track. Because just like John was talking about, Georgia DPH in their manual, recommends servicing septic systems no matter what size, even for, residential home, 2-3 bedrooms, it's 3 to 5 years. And then depending on the size of the tank, 1,500 gallon tanks go up to 5 to 7, again, depending on occupancy. But then you take a home that has never been serviced within 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and at that singular service, we're going out because of a backup or a failure. There's almost no going back to fix it because the damage is done. Those drain fields in the ground, they do wear out. They are going to go bad, but they go bad quicker based on lack of maintenance. If you take a septic tank that's never been pumped out, the solid to water ratio is going the other direction within that tank. Higher amounts of solids are being forced into the drain field, and that drain field starts getting clogged up, does not infiltrate the water as much, and then you have a total failure instead of a failure that we can mitigate just by pumping out the tank and servicing filters or whatever that system has within it.
Is it your opinion that there are any current septic systems, drain fields that you've serviced in the last 5 years that are a total failure that cannot be fixed?
It happens every day.
Cannot be fixed?
Cannot be fixed.
Okay,
Because
so
we're
what-
dealing with homes that have 3 bedrooms on average. The repair, length for a home is 50 linear feet of high capacity drain field. That being said, let's say you have a 3-bedroom home, you're required to install 150 linear feet of new drain field. That is in one long, perfectly terraced level line, or you start breaking it down to get our setbacks and to get our distances. So then you have to split it into 2 75-foot runs that are then spaced 7 feet apart on center. If we can't do that, then it starts breaking down again. So then your square footage just starts getting maximized. We've got to have room to get equipment in there. We've got to be able to set back from the house, set back from property lines, set back from embankments, which in Sky Valley, a lot of the homes and different complexes, they're on embankments, and there's just nowhere for all of that product to go. So that's just some of the challenges that we face with servicing drain fields, servicing tanks, accessibility of septic tanks. I mean, I found them under houses before, under driveways, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10 feet deep in the ground. And it just, the scope of just the simple procedure of your septic tank, servicing it is just endless. You know, theoretically, your septic tank should be as accessible as your propane tank. Your propane tank, you're taking gas out of, you need it every day in your home. Your septic tank, you're putting stuff into, you need it every day in your home. Propane company needs access to that tank. We need access to your septic tank just as much.
So have you had the scenario of a $450,000 4-bedroom home that has a failing septic drain field, whatever, it wasn't emptied for a number of years, too many years, and you've not been able to fix it? What has that homeowner done?
So that goes out to like state EPD, our local Department of Public Health down in Clayton, goes through their office. There is 1 or 2 codes that they have that allow for basically put as much drain field in as you can. That's what's going to be listed. And then if that house ever changes hands, if it's ever sold, it's on that record that, you know, that drain field is not theoretically serving at max capacity, and that's all it has.
So it's grandfathered in.
Not necessarily grandfathered in. The current systems are grandfathered in, but nothing new is grandfathered in.
But if that's a repair to something, because it just is what it is. you
They
only
still
have
have to allow it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
'cause
not
you-
up to us. It just goes to the county codes and by the manual, and if they allow it, they may say, you know, depending on the lot size, if we're dealing with a 0.5 acre lot size that has a giant house built on it, half a parking lot, and then a straight off embankment, you know, they may not be allowed to do anything, especially if we're also dealing with well or spring or water setbacks that we've got to stay away from, because those also are pretty large.
So these are addressed on the front side, and where they should be addressed on the front side in zoning today, where they
Zoning,
weren't then, is what you're saying.
Property purchasers, you know, if you're buying a piece of property, if you're buying a house, getting a site evaluation, getting a septic inspection, because once you buy the house and if it's in your name, and then you go for that, you know, repair or add-on modification, and you get denied based on all of the different factors that we're dealing with, I mean, you could just have a campsite, you know.
We spoke last summer, and I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me last summer when we were, this issue had come up before. So it sounds like business is good. So good for you. And I'm assuming you install new septic tanks as well as servicing previously placed ones,
We
correct?
did one, this past Friday in Sky Valley, and probably 1, 2 weeks prior to that, so.
And do you go over the 10,000 gallon ones, or do you strictly stay with 10,000 and under?
We have never done a 10,000 or over. A lot of ours has been residential.
Okay.
When we get into the higher volume, scenarios, I've done 2 for school systems, but they are grinder pumped into main sewer lines.
And what is the approximate cost? I know there's a lot of factors, but ballparky, what's an average cost of replacing a septic system for a house in Sky Valley, a failed system?
Okay, so a regular failed system in Sky Valley, depending on if we have to replace the tank, accessibility of the property, everything involved, anywhere from 10,000 on the low end to 20,000 on the high end.
So max high end ballpark, I'm not gonna pin you on these numbers, but $20,000 is the worst case scenario for a residential home.
Yeah.
Replacing its whole system.
That was from one that we did where we had to install another tank, a pump, large amount of drain field, and so forth. We couldn't put it just directly below, and it couldn't gravity flow into that system. And they were actually able to put it onto another lot, that they
Creative
Yeah.
solutions.
Yeah.
Now, do you service over 10,000, but you don't replace them?
I mean, we've serviced over 10,000, and then it just depends on the scope of the work. Because if it's gonna be a traditional drain field system, that's over the 10,000 gallon mark, but still, a lot of those 10,000 plus systems is just a couple extra tanks and serial distribution, and then just a lot more drain field. We're talking thousands of feet of drain field, because your 50 foot for a repair on each bedroom, that's based on a lot of calculations that the state has based on soil percolation rates, the amount of gallons of water that each individual in every house uses, and a lot of people get confused when we pump out septic tanks, because they're 1,000 gallons, 1,500 gallons. They sit full all the time. And the way they operate is they catch the solids, and then excess water after all the solids have been screened out, then spills into the drain field. We could pump your septic tank out today, and this time next week, it's going to be at that full capacity again. Because if by yourself, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, because you're using, 30 to 50 gallons of water a day, laundry, dishes, sink, what have you, water filtration systems that flow back in. So we have to take all of that into account.
So I know like one of the condo associations that's been having issues allegedly has 8 septic tanks. Are those considered the less than 10,000 and you treat them individually, or are they all connected and you treat it as a whole system?
So with that one, since each one of those septic tanks services, I guess, an individual block of units, and then all of those septic tanks go into what would be a lift station, then it all goes to a shared drain field.
And they alternate, right?
Right. Well, each tank feeds the same lift station, which then supposedly that lift station alternates between 2 different kind of segments of the drain field.
Now, do you recommend, so this specific one, I had conversations with the condo president, and I had obtained some meeting minutes from last October that said they have not had them serviced or inspected since October 22. So, and that they were supposed to be looking into having that done. And they also have a leak that they're on the water side. How much of, because the water system is as old as the septic systems, right? So we have a constant water battle in Sky Valley that's a time bomb, as well as the septics. Everything is old and has to be replaced just like us.
Correct.
So these things kind of go hand in hand. So with that situation going on, how often do you see a concurrent, do you treat water side too? How often do you see a concurrent problem, not with just septics, with a particular issue, but you also see they have a water problem as well?
So water problem in the terms of what?
Usage, high usage leaks.
Oh, a singular, like leaking, just a running toilet in a home will ruin a system within a year.
Ruin a septic system in
Yeah,
a year?
because it's constant water flow.
Say that again real loud, Parker, or Dylan.
I mean,
Yeah.
You're taking a daily usage, you know, a system that has been calculated for the usage of 30 to, 70 gallons of water a day. And then you take a leak, across 1 or 2 or 3 toilets that is doubling or tripling or quadrupling that water usage on a daily, into the drain field, into shared drain fields from one singular unit. I mean, it can be catastrophic.
So is it a correct statement to say you can fix a septic system, but you have not solved the problem if you are not fixing the water, if any, you have any water leaking issues as well?
I can maintain everything that I have control over.
Is that a yes?
Tanks, if I'm requested to service and maintain those tanks, I can control that. When we service those systems, it's gonna be hard to determine if there's a leak or if it's just usage. Now, obviously, if we're servicing a tank at unit A, nobody's currently living in units A, however many's in there, and there's water flowing into that tank, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So, what I always recommend to everybody is kind of do all of your checks on the inside of your homes, inside of your units, keeping the water turned off, periodically checking, toilets for constant flow. Super easy. Turn off the water to the toilet, go back in an hour. If the water's level lower than it was when you first looked at it, there's a problem.
I would like to suggest that over these discussions in my research over the last 8 months, that the entities that have presented themselves of having alleged failing septic systems also have been the ones that have the highest usage of water according to our city. And our city does a great job, and I want to commend Cody English on, they identify leaks, have communication immediately with leaks, and let people know when they're on the leak list, so to say. But I want to say that I can see a correlation, and it sounds like you can support that correlation between the top 10 users of water also seem to be the top entities that are having alleged septic failure issues. So I'd like to make that comparison. I appreciate that you support that.
Well, I want to reserve a few minutes for the entities as we have invited them. So thank you so much, Dylan, and I hope we can call on you again should we need some more information and education on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So we have representatives here, and I'm opening this up. We have invited, you do not have to step up if you don't wish to. We've invited the country club and the timeshares and the Valley View Condo Association to come up and speak. Ryan, would you like to step up and tell the city council about whether the country club has any issues and what you've done to deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna speak on our position on whether we're for the sewer project or against it.
Absolutely.
Obviously, most of the people in this room are members of the club, and you have some that are vehemently against that and some that are for it. So I won't speak on our position, but I will say our septic tank is 8,000 gallons. We had it pumped 5 years ago. We have had no issues with our septic as far as the club. Our challenges over the last couple of years, 2024 in March, Valley View had a large leak. They have 2 drain fields that are right on our golf course property line, under number 12 tee box and behind 16 green. So we did have leakage coming on to the golf course. Parker actually did the repair on that one in March. It was repaired in a couple days. Last year during the summer, the timeshares, their drain field leaks into our driving range. So they had a large leak. They had that repaired, and it seems to be working at this time. So
I would like to know, and correct me if I'm wrong, the septic drain field for the country club is up on Merrill's land by the chapel.
correct.
The Valley Views drain field is on the golf course.
Yes.
Part of it,
There's
and
2 of them. There's one right behind 16 green, kind of on the slope, and then the front tee on number 12, that whole slope. So that's where the large break was 2 years ago.
and the timeshares also have drain fields that are on country club property.
On our driving range.
So essentially, nobody's drain field is on their own property. which is why we have easements registered at the Department of Health.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other
So
questions?
is the club able to deal with these problems, or are you
Well,
strictly at the mercy of the,
I mean, obviously, we can't predict when these things are gonna break.
right?
Valley View, I commend them on getting that thing fixed right away. The timeshares, they got theirs done. And since last summer, we haven't had any issues. I don't know the time of, or how old these septic systems are at these entities and how long they're gonna last, if there's gonna be continuing problems. But, the challenge for us is if we have a leak at Valley View and it comes down, it's, you're essentially have sewage onto the golf course where people are walking, driving carts, whatever. So it is a health hazard, but again, they've been remedied when they happen.
One former president of the club confided in me that he was concerned that potentially the health authorities in Clayton would close the club until the problem was fixed. Is that likely? Is that plausible?
I don't know to that extent. I can't answer
Okay.
that question. I mean, it's possible if it was a large leak and it was affecting, health, but we haven't had one that large to be an issue with that.
If a condo association or a timeshare unit needed to replace a septic field, would they be able to replace it on the golf course, or would they have to replace it off the golf course?
I mean, I think that'd be up for discussion between the two entities.
Yeah.
I don't know if the timeshare has any more available property that they can even do that. And I think a lot of us included in that, we don't have extra land available. So I think that would be a discussion between the timeshares and us.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem.
We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
So is there anybody from the condo association or from the timeshares who wishes to speak at this time? No. Well,
Madam Mayor,
yes.
I have an email that was sent to us, I think everyone on the council, from Henry Fitzgerald, who is the president of the country club. And could I read the key parts of that?
Yes.
Okay. And he was sending this message with a link to an article about failing septic systems in Florida. Hopefully, the city will make a wise decision on the septic to sewer project, and we can make good use of the grants that have been awarded. For Florida, this has become a lingering problem that doesn't go away. Some communities have already dug a financial hole for themselves by refusing to positively address this issue for the long term. It is discouraging that this has become a pro-development versus anti-development issue for Sky Valley. It is not. It is an environmental issue that the city will need to address at some point.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody wish to respond to that?
I do. And I responded to Mr. Fitzgerald. That is an opinion article from a Florida newspaper, The Ledger. It's an opinion section of that. Also, it is my opinion that Florida geographic area is completely different than the mountains.
Absolutely.
I own property in Florida. We're talking about sea level, you're talking about
Yeah.
salt water in the soil, you're talking about sand, you're talking about all of that things. And he brought up I believe the algae and stuff, which are not the same issues up here.
Different
So
environment.
I responded to Mr. Fitzgerald and said, thank you for the opinion piece, and invited him to be here today.
I live in the Valley.
Oh, excellent, thank you. You're very welcome. Please identify yourself, thank you.
I'm Jim Poole. I am a resident of Valley View. I'm not a board member and not here as official spokesperson. Point of clarification.
Yes.
A broken water line that runs up usage does not flow into your septic system. And that is very clear. That's the note I gave to the young man that was here. So that a broken water line does not dilute your septic system.
Yet it can saturate it.
It does saturate. And so-
It depends where the leak is.
And so, and that's why we get back. Let's say is, we react as we can. We were doing some work on the septic systems that got put on hold while we wait to see what the city is going to do so that we don't double spend and waste money. I mean, that's a good resource for Sky Valley. It's a good resource for Valley View as well. So we're very interested in where you go because it'll dictate where we go. I was a previous board member, but I am not now. So do stay involved. Hilda Thompson, our president's a good friend, and we communicate a lot. And I actually tell her I come today and listen and give her an update on what y'all had to cover. But we appreciate your efforts, appreciate your due diligence. It's an unusual deal living in a place like Sky Valley where probably 80% of us can't vote for you. But you represent us as well. So it's definitely always a very strong interest. But Sky Valley is committed to doing what's right. And I think y'all see that from the actions that we've taken in the past. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
And with that, I'm going to conclude this so that we can prepare for our city council meeting. We will set another date for the next work session, and that will go out, and that will be as soon as possible. And I will repeat and reiterate that we will hold as many work sessions as is necessary for this city council to satisfy its questions, and we will continue the investigation and consideration of this matter. Thank you all for being here, and this meeting is adjourned.